الحمد لله الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الناس قد جاءتكم موعظة من ربكم وشفاء لما في الصدور وهدى ورحمة للمؤمنين قل بفضل الله وبرحمته فبذلك فليفرحوا هو خير مما يجمعون صدق الله العظيم. عن أبي رقية تميم بن أوس الداري رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الدين النصيحة ثلاثا قلنا لمن قال لله ولكتابه ولرسوله ولأئمة المسلمين وعامتهم رواه مسلم أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All perfect praises and thanks are due to Allah, our Rabb and Sustainer, the most beneficent, the most merciful, the most compassionate, the most magnanimous, the most loving and kind. And choices of salawat and salam be on the best of creation, Sayyidul Bashar Rahmatul lil Alameen, Sirajan Munira, Da'iyan ila Allah bi'idhnihi al-Mujtaba, al-Mustafa, the beloved of Allah, Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ya Rabbi salli wa sallim da'iman abada ala habibika khayril khalqi kullihim. Most revered and respected ulama and qurra and hufaz kiram, respected elders, brothers, friends, brothers and sisters, and fellow students. After hearing the muazzins of our academy, actually it's an injustice to speak in English. First the qiraat and then the beautiful nasheed and nazam. May Allah Ta'ala take these two gentlemen from strength to strength. And we don't realize the bounties of Allah upon us. So this afternoon at 3 o'clock in our school, we had the first session of training for Muazzin in our school, inspired by Qurtuba Academy. So, Allahumma zid fazid. They talk about best practice. So this is one of the best practice that we've actually trying to adopt. My dear respected brothers, elders and friends, the few words I want to try and share with you are a bit different from the normal Shab-e-Barat program. Suffice it to say, our MC has already identified that the night begins from after Maghrib. The announcements of emancipation and forgiveness and eliciting the grace and mercy of Allah Rabbul Izzat begins from after Maghrib right up to Subh Sadiq. So, just on a lighter note, whether it's an urban legend, but I think it happened for real. In one of the towns, the Maulana on the big night stood up, and for half a minute he looked at the congregation, and then he said, brothers, what night is this? So they said, Laylatul Qadr or Shab-e-Barat. So in other words, what night it is? So somebody said, big night. He said, what we do on this night? You say we make ibadat and ask for tawbah and ask for forgiveness. You say, wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Go home and start the process. So I don't want to do that because the program has been initiated. 2 ayat I try to read from Surah Yunus, and they are sublime. Ya ayyuhan nas, Allah Rabbul Izzat addresses humankind. قَدْ جَاءَتْكُمْ مَوْعِظَةٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ. Indeed, there has come to you from your Lord good advice. وَشِفَاءُ لِمَا فِي الصُّدُورِ, and a cure for what is in the heart, in the breast, in the chest. وَهُدًى, and guidance, and mercy for the believers. So Allah Ta'ala is introducing us to the next ayat, because then Allah Rabbul Izzat instructs Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, قُل, say, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, بِفَضْلِ اللَّهِ وَبِرَحْمَتِهِ, in the grace of Allah and in His mercy. فَبِذَلِكَ, in that فَلْيَفْرَحُوا, let them rejoice. هُوَ خَيْرٌ مِمَّا يَجْمَعُونَ, it is better than whatever they have accumulated. They, the proverbial other, the disbelievers. So there is a very important lesson for us here. And at the end of this homework for everyone here, Maulana said I'm involved in a school, so we have to give homework. So what we've understood from this ayat, that this Qur'an is not only guidance, it's not only solace for the heart, it's not only a manifest mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's more than that. Therefore, the Mufassirin have identified the grace of Allah to be the Qur'an itself. The grace of Allah, the ability to make tilawat of Qur'an. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed this country with amazing talent and opportunity to learn and read Qur'an, that has to be a manifest grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The grace of Allah Rabbul Izzat, Deenul Islam. The grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, loving Allah, making His ibadat, taking delight in the sajda and in the sujood and in the tilawat, making ibadat and taking delight in the tilawat. It's even rhyming here. So this is the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the grace and fadl of Allah, Iman, the grace and fadl of Allah, Islam, the grace and fadl of Allah, Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So the injunction here is rejoice. This word rejoice has been hijacked by the Christians. They use this word. They say rejoice, the Lord is here. Rejoice, Jesus is here. We never as Muslims rejoice in this manifest bounty that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has lavished upon us. So the grace of Allah in His mercy, Islam, Iman, Qur'an, Tilawat, the sweetness of ibadat, the ability to recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What a great ni'mat that is. The mystics, the Sufis, that is their quest. How do I become arif billah, one who recognizes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So what we are saying is the grace of Allah this night. This night is a preamble to the month of Ramadan. It's a training to start conscientizing ourselves that month of Ramadan is coming. The Imam started with Tariq lana fi Rajab wa Shaabaan wa ballighna Ramadan. Now it's fi Shaabaan wa ballighna Ramadan. And before we know it, inshallah, we will be enjoying the tilawat of Tarawih and our own personal tilawat. So Islam and human happiness, that's what we're talking about. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us that rejoice in this deen of yours, rejoice in this Qur'an, rejoice in this tilawat, rejoice in the risalat of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because it is better than whatever they have accumulated as far as wealth and status is concerned. Then let's try and connect ourselves. What do we rejoice about? So the one thing we can rejoice about is the belief in Allah and the psychological and spiritual security it gives us. And where do we extract this from? Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, en route to Medina, counsels Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu anhu. And what he tells him, La tahzan, inna Allah ma'ana. Do not be grieved, do not be excited, don't get scared, do not feel despondent. The mushrikeen are coming, they can see them coming, approaching the cave. And look at the Master sallallahu alaihi wasallam, tawakkul personified. Tawakkul personified. La tahzan, inna Allah ma'ana. This is that connectivity we are trying to talk about. That we rejoice in this comfort that my Allah affords me not only spiritual, but also psychological security, also physical security. Anbiya alayhimus salatu wassalam, were the greatest recognized as arifs of Allah. So we read in the Qur'an, Inna Rabbi Rahimu Wadud. Shuaib alayhi salatu salam. Inna Rabbi Rahimu Wadud. It's an intimate statement. Verily, my Lord is merciful and loving. We do not equate love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for some reason. Yet one of the 99 names is Al-Wadud. The all-loving, the most loving. So Shuaib alayhi salam telling his people, inviting them and saying, introducing Allah, Rahim, manifest mercy, manifest compassion, magnanimous nature, and Wadud, loving. Salih alayhi salam, Inna Rabbi Qareebun Mujib. Verily my Lord is near and responsive. What a powerful statement. Tonight when we shed tears, this should be in the deepest recess of our hearts, that may Allah is listening and He's responsive. So this great understanding that may Allah affords me this psychological and spiritual comfort and protection, we should rejoice in that. Second thing we should be rejoicing about is our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what is that connection? Inna salata kanat ala al-mu'minina kitaban mawquta. That verily salah has been ordained upon the believers at fixed times. There is no excuse. 5 times a day we must pray. The pinnacle of our spirituality is Fajr, Zuhar, Asr, Maghrib, Isha. Many people erroneously assume that if I do a bit of dhikr once a week, I'm spiritual. Not to disparage that dhikr. But the actual spirituality is when we respond to Hayya ala Salah and Hayya ala Falah. And I'm going to say something, my dear respected brothers and sisters. Those of the respected brothers, elders and mothers and sisters who live in this precinct, within the security of this complex, and a masjid walking distance, it will be criminal if we do not come, especially the men, 5 times a day here, in weekends, and during weekdays, for whatever salah we find ourselves here. Because this privilege, where within few meters literally from our homes, we have a masjid, this is a privilege minuscule percentage of people have. We cannot take it for granted. This is one great bounty. And I'm not an estate agent for Maulana. Really, it's a great bounty. Maulana spoke about لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ وَإِذْ تَأَذَّنَ رَبُّكُمْ لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ. And remember when your Lord proclaimed that if you are grateful, I will increase for you. And the words that I use there are emphasis. The emphasis, the lam and noon there, to emphasize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's increasing for us. So may Allah Rabbul Izzat make us rejoice in this connection with Him. That when we come here, and this is Allah's karam and grace, really. The tawfiq, the hidayat, the fervor, the ecstasy that we enjoy in our salah. This is His manifest bounty. So that's the second thing we should be rejoicing about. Then, what's the third thing we should rejoice about? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has selected us to be the ummatis of Rahmatul lil Alameen sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. What a bounty. What a bounty. An exemplar, an example. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. That indeed for you in the Rasul of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is a beautiful example. For who? لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُ اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرِ. For the one that desires and aspires and is convinced about the meeting with Allah and the day of Qiyamah, and the one that remembers Allah abundantly. So this, being the ummati of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is a great bounty, my dear respected brothers and elders. May we all fall in love with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And what an abid! What an abid! What a worshipper of Allah! Is a beautiful hadith from Abdullah ibn Shikhir radiallahu anhu. أتيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وهو يصلي وَلِجَوْفِهِ أَزِيرٌ كَأَزِيرِ الْمِرْجَلِ مِنَ الْبُكَاءِ. Tirmizi Sharif Hadith, it's in Shamali Muhammadiyah. That I attended a blessed assembly of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was performing salah, and from his blessed chest there was a rumbling sound emanating, like how when a pot of water is boiling, that rumbling sound, but this sound was minal buka, because of the crying of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is a great fadl, great karam, great favor, that everything of the Master sallallahu alaihi wasallam we know. How he walked, how he talked, how he smiled, how he cried, how he prayed, how he ate, his humor, everything, every aspect, his physical, beautiful physical appearance. Amazing. No human being has been emulated, celebrated, elevated, venerated like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We must take delight in this. This should give us joy. This is the fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fadlillah, the grace of Allah, bi wa rahmatihi, His mercy. We should embrace it and enjoy it. We should take delight in it. There is no room for depression, my dear brothers. No room. This afternoon in our school, we had an ex-teacher of ours, Sister Asiya Saluji. She was teaching in our school, and then she made hijrat to Sham before the revolution. She went with the intention of opening up a madrasa there, which she succeeded in doing. And she gave us an overview of what happened in Sham. Subhanallah. And the one thing she said, Ajib, she said, notwithstanding the tyranny, notwithstanding the zulam, the oppression, notwithstanding the poverty, the level of Iman, the level of Islam, the level of love for Allah and His Rasul, the level of love to this day for Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu is remarkable. She said that their car was parked and their friend's car was parked. And there was a air raid. So the friend's car got knocked. Missile hit it, totally destroyed. In that rubble, they didn't know whose car was destroyed. And then the friend is consoling her husband and saying, you know, very sorry, your car has been destroyed. And the rescue people say, no, but your car has been destroyed. You say, La Bas, fi sabilillah, no problem. It's been destroyed in the path of Allah. The level of conviction, the level of contentment, and that is something we need to, as South African Muslims, we need to inculcate within ourselves. If we want to be negative, we tend to be perpetual mourners, really. Whether we hear, whether in Haramain Sharifain, we complain. And if you look around, as an international ummah, people who come to our country will tell us that this should be the country of choice to settle down as a Muslim because of the structures and the opportunities that we have. So just digressing, but may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase whatever deen we have in our country, the faculties, the facilities that we have here, as far as Darul Ulooms and everything else are concerned, remarkable. So this was the third thing we should rejoice in. This, that we are the ummatis of Rasulullah, and Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is a perfect example and exemplar. May we emulate his every action. This belief in Allah that we have must create in us an ethical responsibility. And what is that ethical responsibility? That when I'm conscious, Allahu waliyul ladina amanu, that Allah is the helper and friend of the believers. يُخْرِجُهُمْ مِنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ, He extricates them from darkness and brings them into light. Then my ethical responsibility is that I be conscious that Allah is watching me and He's aware of me. وَاللَّهُ خَبِيرٌ بِمَا تَصْنَعُونَ, Allah is well acquainted and aware of what you are doing, O insan. Therefore, in that magnificent hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he was questioned, فَأَخْبِرْنِي عَنِ الْإِحْسَانِ, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, inform me what is ihsan, what is the pinnacle, we're using that word again, of goodness, what is the pinnacle of spirituality. Look at the eloquence and the masterpiece answer. And we've heard this hadith many a time. أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه يراك. This is the ethical responsibility that we need to cultivate and inculcate in ourselves. That you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in such a manner, it is as if you are actually looking at Allah. And if not that, to be utterly conscious that Allah is watching you. If we can inculcate that type of ihsan, excellence, spiritual excellence, then no doubt our every utterance, every inference, every thought, every action will be in conformity with the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one is the huququllah, the rights of Allah, will be cognizant of that. And also huququl ibad, we will be cognizant of that as well. So linking it to this night, according to riwayat, on this glorious night of multiple avenues of forgiveness for multitudes of people, some people have been identified that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not look at them with mercy and forgiveness. Maulana read beautiful Qur'an, and again, just to look at how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful. What has happened to us? وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا فَعَلُوا فَاحِشَةً. As for those who had committed fahisha. Fahisha is obscenities, indecencies. Things like zina, things like drinking, things like gambling. That's fahisha. Sins that emanate from the limbs. Killing somebody, fahisha. أو ظلموا أنفسهم. Another fahisha is وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الْفَوَاحِشَ مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا وَمَا بَطَنَ. The hidden obscenity and indecency and immorality. And that is pride and ghiba and malice, all those things. So Allah Rabbul Izzah says, a person, people who do that, and then ذَكَرُوا they remember Allah. And instantly, فَاسْتَغْفَرُوا لِذُنُوبِهِمْ, then they ask for forgiveness. وَلَمْ يُصِرُّوا عَلَى مَا فَعَلُوا وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. They do not remain on that. They totally abstain from that, and they know what they have done is wrong. Allah Ta'ala says, for such, جَزَاؤُهُمْ, their reward, مَغْفِرَةٌ مِّن رَبِّهِمْ, forgiveness from their Lord, وَجَنَّاتٌ تَجْرِي مِن تَحْتِهَا, and paradise under which rivers flow. نِعْمَ أَجْرُ الْعَامِلِينَ, excellent is the reward of the doers of good. May Allah Ta'ala make us all doers of good. This is Allah, this is Qur'an. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's offer of forgiveness is constant. All we need to do is lift these hands. So my dear respected brothers and elders, among those that lose out on this night are those who are alcoholics. This is a problem. Drug abuse, alcohol abuse is becoming a problem in our society. We tend not to discuss these things out of shame, but the reality is it's posing a distinct problem in all our societies. May Allah Ta'ala save all of us, young and old, from the scourge of alcohol and drugs. So alcoholics, they will not be looked with mercy. Those who are disobedient to their parents. Tonight is a good night just to pick up the phone and express our love for our parents. Somebody said, yeah, in a school they teach dua for parents. Rabbi irhamhuma kama rabbayani saghira. Is in your kitab on that one? We'll teach it. Rabbi irhamhuma. So the thing is, why must we make this dua after our parents have passed away? Every time we look at them, make this dua. Rabbi irhamhuma kama rabbayani saghira. Oh Allah, have mercy on both of them as they had mercy and nurtured me when I was small. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless our parents with good health and afiyah, And those whose parents have passed away, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevate their status in Jannah. You never forget that. They've gone 10 years, 15, 20 years. You can't forget your mother, you can't forget your father. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant sabr jameel for all the broken hearts. Some people don't recover. They lose their life partner. It becomes so debilitating grief that they cannot recover from it. So may Allah ta'ala make it easy for them. So this belief in Allah and ethical respect, what will it do? It will make us conscious of Allah, and then our actions will be in conformity with قال Allah and قال Rasul. وَمَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوا وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا. Whatever your Rasul has given you, grab it. فَخُذُوا, take it. And whatever he has prohibited you for, stay away from it. So this is the fourth thing that we should be rejoicing about. فَبِذَلِكَ فَلْيَفْرَحُوا. It's an injunction. In that rejoice, O Muslim, that Allah has lavished you with graces and mercies, and we're just trying to identify a few. This Islam of ours gives us a sense of belonging. Look around. Look around. Different shapes, different sizes, different colors, and I would imagine different nationalities even in a masjid. But no distinction. Those people who have access to watching the tawaf in the haram, and those who go there frequently will tell us that you just get blown away. This whole ummah making tawaf, that vibrant ummah. Every hue, every color, every nationality, poor, rich, no distinction. This is amazing, amazing, the sense of community that we have as Muslims. We do not appreciate it, really. We take for granted. Sitting in a masjid, just being here, listening to something, listening to the beautiful qiraat and anashid and everything. These are manifest bounties. The love that we have for one another. In 15 days' time, this to and fro, the small children will be going with trays to the neighbor, increasing the variety on the table. That's a big bounty. So the sense of belonging, that we are innamal mu'minuna ikhwatu. Believers are only brothers to one another, sisters to one another. There is no time for rancor. Beautiful hadith. You can link it to the night. Sahaba asked Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which believers are the best? Masterpiece answer. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam, eloquence was amazing. He said, Kullu makhmumil qalb saduqil lisan. So Sahaba said, Saduqul lisan na'rifuhu, fama makhmumul qalb. They didn't hear that word before. So Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam then described it. What is makhmumul qalb? Huwa taqi, a heart that has piety in it. An-naqi, a heart that is clean. La ithma fi, there's no sin in it. Wala baghya, there's no oppression in it. Wala ghilla, there's no rancor and hatred in it. Wala hasad, and no jealousy in it. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, any heart like that is a good person. So makhmum, the translators translate it as a heart that is swept clean. A heart that is swept clean. And for the ulama, khamamtul bayt idha kanastuhu. Khamamtul bayt idha kanastuhu, that I've cleaned my house when I swept it. Play of words. So here is one subtlety we learn, that the people who asked, the Sahaba who asked, Fama makhmumul qalb, they were masters of Arabic. They were. That was, at that time, Arabic was at its peak. That's why the Qur'an is so perfect and so eloquent. And Rasulullah is so eloquent and Jawami'ul Kalim, that in a few words he could say so much. But Ilmun Nabawi is superior to all other knowledge. Qur'an and then Ilmun Nabawi. The rank order is exactly that. Allah, and then after that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as far as knowledge is concerned. So one day we asked the children, that who was the cleverest person in the world? These children, even I know what they were thinking. They say Einstein. Astaghfirullah, Albert Einstein. When you come with Albert, he was a degenerate man. All due respect, any scientist here. Say Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was, after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most knowledgeable person. As the ulama, you can spend our entire lives in trying to read the ahadith. We cannot encompass it. It's so amazing. In 23 years, Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has left knowledge enough till the day of Qiyamah. Time is running, so it's run with us. So this Islam of ours that we should be rejoicing in, gives us the sense of belonging. Then the sixth thing, it teaches us self-control. Islam teaches us self-control. And a typical example of self-control would be, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, kutiba alaykumus siyam, the month of Ramadan. People who are not Muslim, they cannot understand how our grade 1 children fast in Ramadan. They cannot understand. You see, this is beyond us. So this is a self-controlled Ramadan teaches us. From the morning to the evening, abstention from food and drink. And for married people, abstention from the comfort of their wives. That teaches us an amazing self-control and discipline. So it's not surprising the fourth most powerful army in the world, supported by the so-called superpower of the world and the entire Western world and some complicit Muslim countries, could not, in more than 400 days plus, destroy a ragtag bunch of ill-equipped mujahideen. It's a miracle. We look at the imagery and we look at the devastation and destruction and we become depressed. People my age and more will recall this. 1967, 6-day war. In 6 days, Israel flattened Egypt, flattened Syria, flattened Jordan. That's when they took Masjid al-Aqsa and everything. 6 days. In 6 days, they destroyed the Egyptian Air Force and Army. They took Golan Heights. That's when they occupied in 1967. I was in grade 3. And our Appa told us, what has changed? She said that people are fighting with stones and sticks against tanks. You're seeing it in Palestine today. So this is what our Islam does. It gives us this courage, this resilience, this self-control, where the entire world had abandoned them. But they had this total conviction in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these people were forced to come and negotiate the release of their hostages. These people were forced to stop that war because as much as the media made it seem that they were not taking any losses, if you look at alternate media, it's very, very inspiring what happened to the Israeli army there. Allah Ta'ala give the Mujahideen success and may Allah liberate Aqsa. So the sense of belonging that we have as Muslims is a very important thing. I spoke about it. I said, Hajj, do not underestimate your Jummah. Jummah congregation is unique. Your 5-day congregation is unique. Your Eid congregation is unique. This is that sense of Ummah that we are talking about. It's something we must thrive on. So the self-control. Then the last two that we should be rejoicing about, my dear respected brothers and elders, is the belief in life after death and the eternal akhirah. That's what makes us unique as Muslims. That's what, for millenniums perhaps now, it has changed slightly in Western societies. We never experience, generally in Muslim societies, and I say this very respectfully, the specter of suicide. It is something that is very, very rare in our community still today. It may be happening, Allah knows best, but very rare. One of the reasons for that is we've got this conviction that inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. When we console a person who has left or lost a family member, we say they're in a better place, they'll be meeting the family. So the sense of that This world has come to an end, but my eternal akhirah has started. That sense of returning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this feeling of continuity. وَإِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانِ لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. That verily the abode of the akhirah, that indeed is the life, if they only but knew. We're getting enamored, understandably so, by what we are surrounded by, the opulence, mashallah, the ease and comfort, mashallah. But the reality is, what is waiting for us there is beyond our imagination. Hadith says, no eye has seen, وَلَا أُذُنٌ سَمِعَتْ وَلَا خَطَرَ عَلَى قَلْبِ بَشَرٍ. No ear has even heard the joys of Jannah. No heart has imagined and perceived it. So this gives us a sense of joy. That's why we will see in our society, there are people who take very long to recover when somebody close has passed away. But generally you will find, after a couple of days, people come to terms with the loss. People start picking themselves up, and we continue living. Because we know this is a transitory abode. The eternal one is waiting for us, and our families are waiting for us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us all leave this world with Iman and Islam, and with the kalima on our tongue. And the final thing that we need to rejoice in is the day of judgment and the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In this world, if I am wrong, in this world, if somebody has oppressed me, Ummah internationally are being demonized, and Islam has been demonized, then we take delight and we rejoice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, لَهُ الْحُكْمُ وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. He is the authority and the verdict, and to Him we will be returned, O insan. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's justice is perfect. So my dear respected brothers and elders, our deen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, rejoice in this fadl of Allah, this grace of Allah, your deen Islam, your Qur'an, your Islam, your Salah, your Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, this ummah consciousness that we have, the sense of belonging that we create, this 5 times a day meeting, that has to be something that must be our ambition. And we say, again with a lot of respect, if as we are sitting here, my dear respected brothers, elders and sisters, if I find myself that I am performing salah 5 times a day, alhamdulillah. May Allah Ta'ala make us constant, and may He accept our salah. But if I find myself that I am not punctual 5 times a day, my dear respected brothers and elders, this moment, tonight, let us make dua, Ya Allah, make me a namazi. Ya Allah, make me one that frequents the masjid. Ya Allah, make me like this Shaabun nasha'a fi ibadatillahi azza wa jal. Young people nurtured in the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As I was walking in, there was a small boy with a turban. Small boy, must have been about 4 or 5 years old. When we were young, good 50 plus, 60 plus years ago, we never saw that. Gentlemen, we never saw that. Small children with turban. Very few people wore a turban. So this is something that Allah has blessed us with. So we need to take delight in it, and we need to rejoice in it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this night a turning point in our spiritual lives, in our mental, how we view our deen. Our deen is beautiful. It must make us rejoice in Allah's graces and mercies. And if we can take these things and rejoice with them, and your homework is, you identify what as individuals you would rejoice in and be happy in about your Islam. A person who is generous will take delight in that. وَسَارِعُوا إِلَى مَغْفِرَةٍ مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ وَجَنَّةٍ أَرْضُهَا السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضُ وَعِدَّةِ الْمُتَّقِينَ الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ. If you're in that category, you can rejoice in that. Those who spend quietly, anonymously, and is spent openly in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So try and identify, besides these few that we try to share, what should I rejoice about in my deen? Some say, you know what, the multiple wives that I have, mashallah, I'm rejoicing in that. Allah has allowed it. Some will say, every year I go for Umrah and Hajj. I rejoice in that. So identify that, my dear respected brothers and elders. I think our Azan time is there. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all our supplications. May we cleanse our hearts if there is rancor in it, because that would be a deterrent and an impediment from the acceptance of our dua. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep our communities' love glowing and flowing and soaring. May Allah ta'ala keep all our facilities in South Africa and throughout the world safe. May Allah ta'ala make the jihad in Sham and the liberation one that will Sham will again become a beacon of light for the entire Ummah as well. May Allah ta'ala liberate Aqsa. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala return all our brothers and sisters who are gone for Umrah, and those who will be going for Ramadan safely, and those who are on the list for Hajj. May Allah grant you Hajj Mabrur. May Allah ta'ala return you, and those who have a desire, tonight is the night, gentlemen and ladies. Tonight is the night. Don't worry about the rate of the rand. Just ask him. Allah ta'ala is Razik. He's the owner of everything. Sincerely make dua. Ya Allah, I want to see your house. Ya Allah, I want to go for Hajj. Ya Allah, I want to take my father for Hajj, my mother for Hajj. May Allah ta'ala make that a reality. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Maulana, just 1 second. Maulana announced about the Darsul Qur'an in our Masjid. The Darsul Qur'an in our Masjid was initiated by a dear friend of mine and the son of my revered Ustad. And the dear friend is Maulana Abdullah Jina. And my revered Ustad is Maulana Abbas Jina, Hafizahullah. When Maulana came to Pretoria in the 60s, we were the first class he taught. So when Maulana Abdullah was going to Ali to do Imamat there in the 90s, one of the last things Maulana did as a departing Imam was to introduce a Darsul Quran program in our Jamaat Khana. And Alhamdulillah, that is what Maulana was referring to. The person doing it is not competent, no doubt, but the sincerity of the initiator, Allah Ta'ala reward him, and Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala give him good health and his family, and keep all of them afiyat, and may Allah Ta'ala give Maulana Abbas good health. If there is an inspiration in the ulama fraternity, it's Maulana. Amazing. He's sitting for itikaf with that wheelchair and everything. So Allah Ta'ala grant him afiyah and strength. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi wa bil alamin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.